The topic of this video is graphing exponential functions with the MyMathLab transformations toolbox. Let's solve this problem. Use transformations to graph f of x equals -4 minus e to the negative x. Okay, the first thing I'm going to recommend that you do when solving a problem like this is to rearrange the terms. Both terms are negative, so when you change the order of the terms, you simply keep the negative with each term. So we can rewrite this as -e to the negative x power subtract 4. All right, the next thing you have to do is figure out what is your parent function. And remember, that is always the base raised to the x power. And this is where the advice from previous videos comes in handy. I've mentioned in a couple of previous videos that a base for exponential and eventually logarithmic functions cannot be negative. So the base in this problem is e, not negative e, which means that we're going to start with e to the x, and then we're going to make our transformations from there. Okay, let's go through the transformations. The first thing we have to check for is horizontal shifting, which would be adding or subtracting inside close to x. We don't have any of that in this problem. Next, we would check for vertical stretch or horizontal stretch, which would be multiplication by a number. We don't have any of those in this problem. Next thing we would check for would be reflections over the x or reflections over the y, which we would observe negatives multiplying in places. So for example, this x has been multiplied by a -1. Because that is inside close to x, that makes it horizontal, which is a reflection over the y-axis. And this right here, this negative, represents multiplication by -1, which is outside far from x, which makes it vertical, which makes it a reflection over the x-axis. And then the last thing we want to check for is vertical shifting. That would be adding or subtracting outside far from x, which would be this subtract 4 right here. This indicates we're going down, so we adjust our slider to the value of -4. All right, and with that, we have solved this problem. Let's just briefly recap. First thing, put your base of e. Then next, check both reflections boxes. Then finally, adjust your vertical shift slider to -4 and hit submit.